Welcome to Mr. UFC Vegas Fight Club TV. I'm Kyle, your host. Welcome to the podcast and welcome to the Early Betting Strategy podcast. We're going to talk about UFC 223. We're going to talk about, in specific, we're going to talk about Paul Felder versus Iaquinta opening up the card at UFC 223. And I've done already for Rose and Joanna. Done also for Tony and Khabib. We're going to do this one now for the opening fight. Very excited about this fight. But before we really get into that, I want to remind everybody to subscribe to this channel. It's UFC and gambling content. If that's for you, subscribe. Kick that bell icon so you know we're dropping content here. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about, is another breakdown of a fight. And really, it's more of a blimp view of the fight. You know, I've already went back and looked at their last few fights, kind of diving into a little bit more about each guy and where we think we want to put our money, where there may be some opportunities and maybe some weaknesses for the opponent. So looking at it right now, we've got Iaquinta, who's 13-3. We've got Paul Felder, who's 15-3. Now, the current lines for these guys right now is Paul Felder, and it actually looked like slightly some money went on Paul Felder to move it down because he was in the plus. Now he's minus 103 for Paul Felder and minus 117 for Iaquinta. So it's basically a very, very even fight on the bookies' eyes at this point. Like I said, it was a hair more for Paul Felder. He was like a plus 105 or somewhere around there. So really the first guy we're going to look at, and I actually just watched his videos, is Iaquinta. Now, Iaquinta, his last fight was against Diego Sanchez, and that fight was, let's see if I can get a date. Oh yeah, right. So that was 2017, and before that he fought basically 2 years after, he fought in 2015. So he basically has 3 fights since 2015. Not the greatest right away. That always worries me. A little ring rust, that kind of thing happening. But his fight against Diego Sanchez, this fight to me, Diego Sanchez is not anyone that's impressive anymore. He's a a vet, a kind of a gatekeeper role that he has now with the UFC. Great name, that he's got still within the company, but I just don't think that his skills are there. He's very wild when he's in there, and he's a scrapper. So this kind of fight suited Al very well. I think it suited him very, very well, knowing that Al's going to throw some punches, and the same thing with Diego. Diego's going to go out there and throw some, just sit there and brawl. Didn't work out for Diego. He ended up getting knocked out early in that fight. And again, it was very lopsided. This was a fight that I didn't really think there was much to really take a look at. It was a quick fight, couple exchanges in between them. Iaquinta ends up getting the knockout early in that fight. The thing that I looked at the most was him coming off of basically 2 years out of competition. That kind of thing always is going to give that ring rust like we're talking about. It's always going to have that. It just wasn't, you weren't able to really see it just because it happened so quickly. I think that's a good thing, though, obviously, for Al to be able to knock out Diego Sanchez as early as he did, but I don't know if the technical side of it was there. Now, going back to 2015, which was his prior fight, was against Jorge Masvidal. Now, this fight to me was one that I do want to talk about a little bit more, because this one to me, this was a 3-round fight. It went to a decision. It was actually, Jorge Masvidal is a tough fighter. He is a tough fighter. He's pretty well-rounded, great boxing. I mean, he's got great boxing. Very tight with his punches, throws terrific combinations. In this fight, to me, those first 2 rounds that happened. Now, that first round was all Masvidal. Masvidal came in there, threw, I believe it was an elbow to Iaquinta's face, gashed him up. Very one-sided, I believe that first round was. A lot of output for Masvidal. Was able to really hurt him badly and do a lot of damage early in that first round. Second round, a little bit closer, but definitely for Masvidal, at least in my opinion, very much for Masvidal. Outstruck him. To me, also, it looked, Iaquinta was very sloppy was very sloppy with his striking, very wild with his striking, always looking for the knockout. He definitely has the power to do something like that, and he's got terrific accuracy, but he's always looking for it. And it's either that or he's going to try to jump for the takedown. And in this fight, he wasn't able to get the takedowns. And the stat that I thought was a great stat was that Jorge Masvidal was 9 for 9 on stopping takedowns. That is a large number of takedowns to stop. Now, I haven't dived back I looked at the one prior to that one, which was Joe Lozon, which we'll get into in a second. But that to me is, if he can't get a guy down at all right now, and he's not able to get that into his repertoire of things he's going to do, that's not good for Iaquinta. But throughout that second round, Masvidal did more damage to him and really was able to impose his will throughout that round. A lot of nice leg kicks, though, I did see from Iaquinta. I do like that. Did do a lot of damage to Masvidal's leg, his lead leg, but still, I would give that round to Masvidal. Third round, I really thought that Masvidal kind of took a step back and thought he had gotten the 2 rounds. That's not the best thing, as everybody knows in the MMA world. You never let it go into the hands of the judges. You just don't. You never know what they see. There's been many times that I've bet one way and I'm saying there ain't a chance that I won this, and I won. And there's been times that I've said I've easily won this, and I'm almost celebrating, and then it goes the other way in a decision. So it can be as crazy as possible. This one wasn't to that extent crazy, but 2 rounds I definitely gave to Masvidal. In the third round, like I said, he kind of took off that third round. I believe, Al was had a little more output. There wasn't much damage there, really, but I think he did enough to win that round for Iaquinta. It goes to decision. It went split decision. Iaquinta gets that win. I think that's a very telling win in general when you look at kind of where he is over his last 2 years. Well, now it's almost going to be about 3 years of activity within the UFC. This Masvidal fight, I don't believe that he should have won it. I really believe that it was Masvidal's fight. And if he loses this fight, where does he go within the UFC? Does he even return? Where he was, his mind frame, a lot of issues with the UFC. He's got a real estate business outside of the UFC. He keeps talking about that's his big moneymaker. He doesn't have to fight, but he likes to fight. That kind of mind frame to me always puts up some red flags that he's not in it fully. He's a very capable fighter. He's very talented, but if he's not fully into it, a guy that's very, very willing to go that extra mile will get the victory. So here he did get the victory, and then prior to that he fought Joe Lozon, and Joe is like a punching bag to an extent. He can just take a ton of damage. In that fight, it was a brawl. In that first round, they had a brawl. They were going at it. I really thought that Joe Lozon, who is not known for his stand-up striking ability, just laying it out there and going toe to toe, he was landing a lot on Iaquinta. And I thought that was a telling sign too. That's pretty interesting to me that Joe Lozon, not very quick, not very hand speed, not the greatest ring movement. He's even at this point now, he's kind of heading the other way. He's with wins and losses and kind of going back and forth, and can't really still got that name because of some of the great battles that he has had within the UFC. But in this fight, second round, Iaquinta lands a bomb. Ends up from that moment that he landed it with, probably early, it was kind of middle in that second round. Joe Lozon was wobbling, ended up getting the finish. Like I said, not much really to break down here. The one takeaway, though, that I did have was the fact that Joe Lozon was landing on Iaquinta. And this is also when Iaquinta was getting a lot of fights in. I mean, now if we go back to it, let's just go to 2014. So in 2014, he fought 4 times. He fought 4 times in 2014. And then early in January in 2015, that was when the Lozon fight happened. Then he fought in 2015 Masvidal, and then in 2017 he fought Diego Sanchez. So this was kind of his wheelhouse here. That there was no ring rust, and he was losing some of the stand-up battles, wasn't able to get Masvidal down. That already kind of gave me a little bit of insight on the whole package of Iaquinta. And going back even further, I mean, he's got some nice wins. I mean, Ross Pearson he knocked out. Had a couple other knockouts. Mitch Clark, he lost submission. That was his last loss. But in he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's 5-1 out of his last 6. But that is over a span of roughly 4 years. So that part of, to me, already is a little bit, a little worrisome when you're talking about a pick'em fight where this guy is, or was, looked at as a little bit more of the favorite. I said the lines have moved, but there wasn't much to see. The Diego Sanchez fight, again, to me, it was an early knockout, but Diego Sanchez is even slower than Joe Lozon, a lot less technical, and it was kind of I feel like a gimme fight for Iaquinta in a way. That's a great name. He could work off of that name of Diego Sanchez and see what happens there. But if he could not beat Diego Sanchez, that's not good. Now, Paul Felder, I have really enjoyed watching Paul Felder. The way this guy fights, he is tough. I mean, this guy takes a beating. He can keep moving forward. Great striking. I mean, he's got solid leg kicks, great striking, great combinations. And I looked at the first fight that I actually had looked at was his fight against his last fight, which was December of 2017. Charles Oliveira. Now, this fight. Now we know Oliveira is lanky guy. Great on the ground, great submission game. That's where he's at. And in this fight, this first round, and I almost suggest you guys to watch this first round. In this first round, it was all Oliveira. Oliveira took him to the ground, was beating him up, had him in some great opportunities to finish him, and one spot looked like he was going to finish him. For basically the entire first round, Felder took a beating. He just took an absolute beating in that first round. And for him to literally, even in that second round, for him to come back in the way that he did was unbelievable and shows the heart that Felder has. And it just shows the hunger that he has. In that first round, it was completely lopsided. And for him to come back and get a knockout victory is unbelievable. I mean, is really unbelievable. Again, you guys got to go back and watch it. I will dive more deeper into all these fights closer to, on fight week, I will dive a little bit more into these, giving a more generality of what I saw, my takes on some of the things. And of course, part of this is really to get you guys talking too about it, to have a conversation, to say, listen, I like this guy, I don't like this guy, this is why. And again, we all want to handicap this together. Again, I want this to be a community that we sit here, we talk about the fight, and we kind of see which way's better or which way's worse, and always rewatching these fights definitely helps. So in that fight, he does get the win. Like I said, a tough victory for him. Ended up getting it. He fought Stevie Ray prior to that. Stevie Ray, I think he's a young kid, up and comer. Ended up getting knocked out in that fight also, an early KO. He kind of swarmed him, Felder, and Felder, really wasn't, really didn't have to do too much to put him away. The one thing I don't like about Felder, he always has his hands down. Loves to have his hands down. This guy can take a punch, and he knows he can take a punch, but he should also not have to take a punch. He should try to block, because that's part of it. Part of it, he just leaves his hands down, and that worried me a little bit on the other side with Iaquinta. If he's going to be on the other side of Iaquinta and exchanging throughout, and he's got those hands low, Al can slip one in and put you to the ground and put you to sleep. So that worries me a little bit on Paul Felder. But how crisp Paul Felder is compared to Iaquinta, to me, is a wide range. It's a wide range. I really feel that Paul Felder, if he can get inside, and if he can work some clinches, he's got great elbows and great leg kicks. He throws a lot of leg kicks. That's where Paul Felder can, from the outside, work him and then work his way in, and when he finds the opportunity and the weakness on Iaquinta. Very close fight here, like I said. It's a very, very close fight. I'm really excited for this one as the opener to a terrific card at UFC 223. So let me know what you guys think. Again, Paul Felder is right now minus 103. And Iaquinta is minus 117 at UFC 223. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. Please make sure you do. Always, I want to, answer comments that are in there. I'm always very active within the comment section. Again, want to have conversations because that's also the enjoyable part of this, is hearing what you guys got to say, and then, whether you disagree or you agree with me, to have the conversation and debate everything. So, there you have it, guys. Stay tuned for more. This is Mr. UFC Vegas, Fight Club TV.